Welcome everyone to a really fun conversation. I guarantee it will be fun. And we're going to talk about the Capricorn mysteries that also brings in the element of Saturn. And we're really inspired to do this time of year because we're coming into the December solstice when the sun reaches 0 degrees Capricorn, December 21st, and is on the galactic cross near the galactic center. So it started in 1926, it goes to 2070. It's pretty exact on the cross as we speak. And when it's rising on the December solstice. So it's transmitting directly from this part of the sky. So one of the things we can imagine is that this is a time to have a new perspective around the Capricorn mysteries. And so we're going to share with you a little bit about what we've experienced, what we've experienced in the past, what we're experiencing now, and how we're envisioning it going towards the future. So I wanted to start just by kind of describing Capricorn as and the Capricorn season, and anytime there are planets in Capricorn, as a really great time to honor the grandmothers, the grandfathers, the wise elders, the ones who remember our origins and the path we set out upon eons ago. So it's like the record keepers, Capricorn, they're the record keepers as well. So and oftentimes the ones who scribe for the notes for the meeting or whatever it is. It's like in the ancient temples, the ones who were writing down the things for the text that would go forward into the future. So if we think about the Capricorn mysteries, and especially with the sun in Capricorn for a month after the December solstice, this is a time that's illuminating the records and the record keepers and the ones who know what decisions will benefit the current and future generations. And that's the essence, we could say the pure essence of Capricorn. It has that wisdom, it knows. And I want to share a quote. This actually comes from a book called Grandmother's Stories. It was written by Burleigh Muten. And because we've lost connection even to any elders, grandfathers, grandmothers, anybody who is an elder, we've kind of lost the way of honoring and respecting and connecting into that wisdom in our more current culture. So this comes from the grandmother stories, and I'll just say the grandfathers, the wise men, the wise ones, the elders. It's not just gender specific to women. This just happens to be a quote that a woman wrote in her book, and she says, "The wise woman was once as well known and reliable as the ground we stand upon. She held the knowledge of what went before. She was the keeper of tradition, the storyteller, the teacher, healer, and leader of her people. In many traditions, grandmother wisdom was connected or considered the voice of the earth herself." And literally, lots of tribes, native tribes, they did not make any decisions without the approval of the grandmothers. They knew that they would have the wisdom to see how this was going to affect the generations down the road, and did it also support the ancestors and those who had come before, and was it viable and sustainable for the moment. And this is the essence of Capricorn that we have lost, and we are now here to help retrieve and get back. So I'll just share really quickly probably the biggest shadow side of Capricorn that I've experienced. And I do have Mars in Capricorn and Saturn square my sun and conjunct my north node. So I have some I have some of these more cultural ways that we've experienced Saturn in the past, and seen as a male god, although Saturn is feminine because Capricorn is feminine in Earth, and it's all about structure and form is matter, matter is mother. So we know it's feminine. It just got co-opted by the dominator culture. And we've all been conditioned by it. We've all had experiences, and I'll share my story. We're going to have Teresa and Leslie share theirs around this, because we've all had some version of this, and it helps us to recognize it so we can make better choices as we go forward. So quickly, I recognized I had a doing addiction. And Capricorn is not about doing as a thing to just do, because we have to be doing or accomplishing, but our culture kind of says that. So, but we've been programmed to do, to accomplish, to achieve, to have our value and worth based on how much we're doing and how much we're getting done. And I was a young mother of 3 under 3. Actually, by this time, they were probably now 5 and 2 or something when I had this realization. But I was always doing something. It's like, even in the evening, if I sat down to watch a TV show after they all went to bed, I was folding laundry. I had to be doing something all the time. And that's when I started to recognize, oh, I've been very conditioned. I was also told growing up I was lazy, good for nothing, and would never amount to anything. So I think a lot of my life was to prove my father especially wrong on that issue. So these are some of the ways we can get conditioned into a certain way of being. And I recognize doing's not good or bad. It's like anything. It's not good, or exercise, whatever it is, it's you can do too much. You can have it be too much. So how do we find the balance? And are we doing because we love doing it? And if we're loving it, then it's not from an addiction. It's from because it's something that we really love doing. And there's sometimes things we have to do that we don't necessarily want to do, and that's okay too. But just looking at how much you're doing all the time. And I've had people say to me, how do you accomplish so much? And I'm like, I don't know. It doesn't seem like I accomplished that. I don't, from my perspective, it doesn't seem like that much. But I think about it and I'm like, well, I raised 4 children. Maybe that's why. I don't know, because it doesn't seem like that much. I feel like my life is easier now. So anyway, with that said, I'm going to pass this off to Teresa. So who is very Capricornian and her insights are amazing. So take it over.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Caitlin. Caitlin, I am, yeah. So one might say I have almost the maximum allotment of Capricorn because I have Jupiter, I have Venus, and I have my ascendant, plus Saturn conjunct my Venus opposing my Mars. So I can't really get away from it, especially right now with the Pluto transit. I'm in till the very end. Um, my and I have just come to my realization. I didn't come to the realization of how much I was doing on the outer rather than the inner until fairly recently, probably the last 10 years ago, 10 years or so. Because I've always focused outward. I've been a community organizer, I volunteer, I've often said my best work is done as a volunteer, which means I'm never getting paid, which means, and a lot of times I do way more than even just satisfies me. The work is always good, but Capricorns need a pat on the back every now and then. So, I think over years and years that really took its toll, and I just stayed busy and didn't ever land to be able to be introspective about it. So I heard someone, I think it was in our class the other day, it's not about what you do, but who you are. And there's been moments like I had a cancer journey when I was 46, and that brought me to a standstill. I hadn't heard the taps on the shoulder or slow down, any of that. It took a frying pan up the side of my head to to slow me down and pay attention and turn inward. And at the same time, I just got busy again. So having been praised more for what I accomplished as a child, judged for what I hadn't done instead of what I had accomplished in some instances, just trained me to keep doing and not think. And so disconnecting, almost like an out of body, um, seeing myself do and not doing for myself, I guess is how I've experienced it in the past. Yeah. We'll talk about present has a whole new flavor. Leslie.
Sorry. Well, I can relate to both very much. I was thinking, Kaylin was talking about having a doing addiction, and I definitely have that as well, or have had that. But my major experience, I think, would be more defined as a responsibility addiction. I was responsible for everything, everyone's happiness, everyone's well-being. And it was very easy to stay busy taking care of that, doing that. That defined me much as a person and my value. Excuse me, losing my voice a bit. And it really, I wanted to do the things that I did. So it's not that it was ingenuine. But I think it was just so ingrained in me and not a real awareness that I wasn't doing for myself or developing myself in ways that, as times pass, now at 60, I'm like, oh my goodness, I spent a lifetime doing certain things, investing in others, investing in relationship, investing in family situations that poof are gone.
Mm-hmm.
They're like gone in a moment. A whole life, just like I was saying earlier, burning the house down, but I still have all the things, but I don't have the house. I don't have the structure around it anymore, the relationships. But it took that, for me to realize what I was so compelled to do, just to be so responsible. And there was that as well, like, in my growing up, oh, you're capable of doing this, so why didn't you do more? Or you're the responsible one, or you're responsible for yourself and for them. It's just, just a lot that society has put in, and circumstance of family situations and stuff. But it really, really is so deeply ingrained that it took so much to break that pattern. And that goes to the present, which I'm breaking and still walking through that. But my Capricorn is, I have ascendant and south node together at 17 degrees in Capricorn. I have Saturn on my moon, and I have various things in square to my rising. So it has its challenges, but what I would like to see in myself is appreciating that more. I do, though. My experience on the non-shadow side of it is I like actually being that one, that can be responsible. That it's very validating to me. And that has fed a lot of my self-identity. But, in unwinding the shadow part from it, it also unwinds the other part. So I'm really looking at that and trying to, I think I've experienced it a lot as a burden, even though it wasn't always conscious. Yeah. And I'm looking forward to this present point and the future point of working with it differently and more of its blessings. So thank you.
Beautiful.
Kaylin, back
Yeah.
to you.
So here, present day how we're experiencing present day Saturn. I mean, Capricorn, and of course Saturn, because they're so similar. And the challenge, I think, I love that you brought in responsibility, Leslie. That's so good, because that is one of the things. It's like in certain astrological perspectives, they would say a responsible administration of one's domain.
Mm-hmm.
Which sounds like a heavy burden, actually. And
Yeah.
I'm just going to share. I was watching Fantasia with my kids when they were growing up, and when the nature fairies were changing the seasons, and I was watching them dance and play and the music, and they were doing this artistic, creative thing of changing the seasons. They were being responsible to their work, and they were having fun doing it. And I was like, that's what Capricorn's supposed to be like.
Yeah.
That's the essence of Capricorn. It's not the cracking the whip and putting your nose to the grindstone and hard work that we've been conditioned into. So how in the present, and I still have a doing addiction. I'm still working on that. I say yes to too many things. Sometimes we can say yes to things that aren't working for us because we feel like we should, and we can say no to things that would work for us because we don't feel like we have the time and the space to do it. So really looking at those yeses and nos, and really starting to engage the yeses that will help us to feel we're more aligned with why we're here and what our purpose is, and have that joy and that fun and that play that is part of the Capricorn mysteries that has been missing. So that's something that I pay attention to every day as much as I possibly can. So yeah, Teresa.
Yeah. So responsibility, just to circle back to that a little bit. I guess that I didn't capture that word earlier, but that's kind of what's driven my life. I'm the oldest, and I'm curious at how that plays out in birth order. So I was the responsible one. I was the one, I remember telling my brothers, I'm doing all this, breaking the ice for you guys. And I took that mantle seriously. When I was president of a board, the bylaws said, it's the responsibility of the chair of the board for the success of this, whatever it was. And I took that seriously and literally. And so it caused me to overstep and ruffle feathers and so I could have had a kinder way of approaching that. So I guess I'm speaking now, the lessons I've learned and I'm in the middle of the whole Pluto transit. So my house hasn't burned down. We sold it and packed everything. I've moved 3 times in the last year, or actually 8 months. So what I'm finding is I'm a master organizer. I organize all the things rather than deal with getting rid of things. It's hard for me to get rid of stuff because I might need it. So some of that's family of origin, some of it's just being prepared. The good Capricorn person is always prepared for everything. And looking at those types of patterns in my life, I've never had a doing addiction because I have a Taurus moon that kept me from doing that. So I'm looking at now breaking those old patterns of doing for others and doing for the community, or even doing for my family and doing for myself, organizing myself, and taking stock of all the things that I've used to do. I have this 18-page curriculum vitae if I were to write everything I've done down in my life. And so what are the things that I can glean from those experiences and organize my life in a new way? So I'm looking at the skill sets I have. I've even just recently, looked at, what kind of work do I want to do? I have a wonderful job right now, and it's serving others. It's part-time, so it serves me in that way. How can I continue doing the inner work and not disappear from the earth and still make a contribution? And when I say no, I usually don't say no until I'm just at the breaking point. So how can I review and say no sooner instead of just chopping the roots off, So that's, I guess for me right now, my present is blending into my future because I'm trying to manage all this Capricornian intuitive knee-jerk reactions in my life to everything. And balance that. And how do I take what's good and useful to go forward, even as simple as, I hang on to things. Like this is a funny little story, but how there's always this joke about you need it as soon as you throw it away. you know. So the other day I was going through this very organized box of kitchen gadgets, and I keep scoops. It was in a little Ziploc bag, of course, it's so organized. And I had all these scoops, you know, like you get out of protein powder. And they were 1 teaspoon scoops that I'd gotten out of something. And I thought, I don't need these things anymore. So I decided to discard them. The next day, I was organizing something else. And I needed 1 teaspoon scoops, and they were gone. So it's like, how do I manage that kind of thing happening with, you know, clearing my life for a different life? I guess that's been the biggest thing. I'm so organized and so prepared for a life that I thought I was going to have. And now that that's gone, I've lost the framework for that life.
Mhm.
What do I do with all the things now? Do I need them? My Capricorn's saying, yes, but do I? How can I better serve myself and the outside by looking at that differently? You know,
Mm.
yeah. Leslie, maybe I might come back around after you talk, because everything everyone says kind of trips something else in my brain. So
Me too. I'm laughing because I'm sitting here. I'm in Mike's house, my partner, and I have a house that I rented. So my life burned down, and then I was in an apartment for a while, and I had all my stuff in all these storage units, 4 giant storage units of stuff that I had paid for, moved around. It's, I mean, it's a nightmare. But then I got in this apartment that's too small, then found this house that's just 5 miles down the road. It's wonderful. Big full basement. I have room for all the stuff. Emptied all the storage units, 4 storage units. Got rid of a lot of stuff, but this is a life's accumulation of stuff, right? Some of it sacred, some of it just household of the random, but I literally have to go through all of it. But I moved in there July 1st. It's still full of boxes. Like I haven't unpacked anything. But the first thing that we're doing is Mike is building me this beautiful mantle over the fireplace.
oh,
And there's something so significant in that to me, that it's this, well, it's a labor of love for one thing. It's beautiful, but it's as wide as the entire wall, 14-foot long
oh wow.
cedar mantle. And everything else in there is just absolute chaos, boxes everywhere. And I'm going over there today to unpack. But I was thinking about that when you were talking, Teresa. It's like I've been packing around all of this stuff, that represented my life, similar to the journals earlier that we talked about. It's like packing around these things, and I'm looking at it all now, and I do literally have to go through all of it and see what is relevant to me now as the whole structure of my life has changed. Like what do I not need? What's not truly me anymore? But I would, so that when you were saying that, I brought that up, and I was just laughing about the literal outside reflection of the inside things that
Yes.
have been going on. And this has been, since it started in 2017, but strongly since 2019, when I went through my Venus return there, 2020 as well. But I'm peaceful with it now. That's a different experience that's happening for me with Capricorn. Is I'm much more in peace. I'm in a relationship that's reflecting back to me the values more that I wanted, that are much more give and take. And I get to stop and feel in the moment, like what I'm feeling, why I'm doing things. And I think that's how I'm experiencing Capricorn differently now. A very wise friend told me right before I went into my Venus return, he had this observation of me. And it really cracked me up because perspective is such a big thing. And he's, so I've always prided myself on leaning into my problems. If they're down the road, I'm going to lean in and problem solve now. I don't want it just waiting out there to jump on me. But he described this vision of me literally leaning into life, like I'm leaning into it. And he said, do you ever think that if you didn't lean so hard, if you just stood upright and took a breath, that maybe some of those things would pass you by? They're not necessarily all, you don't have to solve them all. And I can't tell you how many times I've thought of that. And like, it was such a literal interpretation of me, something I thought of as a strength. My ability to problem solve and lean into really was something that caused me a lot of grief and probably a lot of unnecessary struggle. you know, just taking on responsibility for things that hadn't even gotten to me yet. And so what I'm doing differently in the present is trying to at least stand upright, express my feelings. And I actually have people around me now that genuinely like reflect that back to me, share their feelings. And I find that I'm much more in appreciation of the little things. I'm much more in appreciation of all things that are not complicated, and realizing that not all things have to be complicated. Some things can just be good and easy and pleasant and joyful. And I think that's that, you know, I'm getting a glimpse of the playfulness of Capricorn. You know, the beauty of it is, as we're getting older, right, is that supposedly, at least I always said this, was that Capricorn gets to have its youth as it becomes an elder. So I'm looking forward to that, you know, to having that. Would segues into the future part, but there we go. Kaylin, back to you.
Oh, that's so good. I love that you brought up the feeling piece, because I was just feeling into that myself. And one of the things I recognized about doing addictions, and maybe even a responsibility addiction, is that it's a way to avoid what we feel. Because if we're having to take care of others, if we're having to do something, if we're having to create something, if you know, and it can be doing and responsibility intertwined, because we're being responsible, so we have to do the things we have to do to be responsible. Anyway, and so if you're getting this, and this is something I get to look at myself, is if you're getting too many things on your plate, too many things to do, too much responsibility, is it because you're avoiding feeling something that you feel? And especially with Capricorn going through its last weeks right now, it's going to go back into Aquarius and then back into Capricorn. I mean, we've got this little dance back and forth, but these are really powerful things to pay attention to. And how are we restructuring our life so that we're coming from that place of greater fun? So my visioning for the future is like having fun, being playful. And oh, let me just say, I want to insert this here, that for those of you who don't know Teresa and Leslie, I've known them for eons of time, really long time. And we've had some very fun times together, events together. And we just suddenly realized, hey, we have a lot to share about this, that we wanted to share with other people, because it's been so helpful for us to have the conversations among ourselves. So yeah, and so hopefully you'll find this helpful, useful, and supportive to you, and we will do more as we go down the road. Anyway, so future vision for Capricorn, it's do less, accomplish more. From a place of being, we can, and then I think the rest of that quote that comes from Maharishi Mahesh Yogi from Transcendental Meditation, it's do less, accomplish more, do nothing and accomplish everything, from a place of where we can really be who we are. And we'll still want to do because it's fun. We'll still want to do because it's creative. We'll still want to do things, but we won't feel that pressure to have to do things. It'll be more from a place of greater I don't know, playful, fun choice. So, Teresa.
Well, apparently this all triggered a lot of things, because I had a nice coughing fit while Leslie was speaking.
Sorry.
My dear partner snuck a glass of water in for me. Yeah, so fun has never been something I attached to Capricorn. Leave it to an Aries to attach fun to that. I love that. And yeah, so I remember one time, so just digging to the past for the future, is I was driving home from an interview while I was doing this huge fundraising project when we lived in Montana. And it was the end of the project. We were in the home stretch. The big fundraising event was just a couple of days away. And I'd done this fabulous interview that went so well. And on the way home, and I just was kind of humming to myself and thinking, you know, wow, I just love when a plan comes together. You know, and so at that moment, it was fun. Now, there were lots of not fun moments in that project, but at that moment, it was fun and it was good. and I was excited, and it was almost over. So I I want to have more productive and fun things like that going forward in my Capricorn role. One of the things that has come out in my journaling is, you know, I always dreamed of having a farm since I was 11 years old, and it just hasn't manifested for us. I've farmed on other people's land and dealt with the loss of, all of those things. When you are in another person's space, it's wonderful and all of that, but it's just not the same as your own space. And so this speaks to the new way to bring Capricorn forward. The old way would be and I am still mourning the loss of that dream, but I'm now dreaming into a new way to realize my gifts and my contributions to the community as a wise woman who has all of the 18 pages of experience. How I can bring that to a community in a new way. And so maybe why can't I do it out of my apartment? I don't need to have the farm. I don't need to have what I always thought it needed to look like. So, and that's also one of the heartbreaking parts of your heart breaking open, is having to let go of all those dreams. I don't need 8 loaf pans anymore. I don't have a family of 6. I have a commercial kitchen in there. It's no wonder my kitchen doesn't fit in the apartment, right? But I've never not had that stuff, and so and it's hard. I can't say it's easy, but I still keep getting these thoughts, these glimmers of and images of not having all that stuff. Like I only maybe need 2 loaf pans. We were just at our son's house, and it's not his first apartment, but he's moved into a new place. He has 1 loaf pan because he likes to make beer bread. And I was thinking, I'm like, you know what? It's only Jim and me. Do we need 8 loaf pans? No. Unless I was going to cater. And therein lies the thing. What if I need it? So I guess that's the constant back and forth. So I think for me, I'm going to take advantage of this Aquarius. I might even mark the days on my calendar. How can I expand into this new vision and let go of some of the stuff weighing me down? I have no air in my chart. It's all earth and fire. So it's so take advantage of that while I can, and then get back into Capricorn for a little more and do some more review and reflective energy, So anyway, that's my path. Leslie.
That's funny. As the loaf pans, it's not loaf pans for me, but it's literally everything else. I think Capricorn also has a relationship with preparedness. That's how I define it in its positive state. We want to be prepared. I've got this for that and that for that, and I've got 10 of them, in fact, if anybody else needs one. But I don't really want to give them away because I might need it, right? It's the conundrum of, but I've given away a lot, but listening to you made me realize I need to let go of some more as well, because it's burdensome and it's heavy. I've been packing this stuff around, and that's also one way to move things out into the community, right? That sharing part. And going forward with Capricorn, like I definitely want to experience the joy of it. One of the things that I had an awareness of a while back was that, like I love fiercely, I'm deeply in relationship. I've got all that Libra stuff and Scorpio stuff, deeply in relationships too. But I think that worry on responsibility and fear stuff sometimes doesn't allow me to fully like release myself and engage on that level. Plus I have all that Aquarius stuff. So maybe there's a little detachment, like I'm there on the inside, but I was realizing that maybe I could have loved more or experienced more, but I was so caught up with all this responsibility. So I'm working with that now, and I'm feeling like that's going to inform my future structure of things as well. You know, I look forward to doing family again, and it's all completely different, but like these new grandbabies that are around, it's wonderful, and I want to enjoy every moment of it. So I think maybe it's come back around, not as reward like karma, but just the full circle of it, you know, like, okay. And I'm having a hyper awareness of how I want to experience it. I'm enjoying every little moment. And I think that that's something that Capricorn can fully appreciate. You know, it has that perspective, that longevity, like really, really appreciate this. So I happen to be working in a nonprofit right now where it's like, wow, this landed in my lap at an ideal time, also the end of the Venus return, where I'm learning to delegate. I'm learning what really a higher functional relationship with responsibility. Like, yes, we're all really responsible, and there's these big things. We're working with huge grants, huge, it's just huge visions, huge everything, and it's working. But also, I'm actually working with people that really are doing their very best at really handling responsibility and the relationship with that, and working together, where it's like not all on one person, you know, and not to, like you said, Teresa, like react. It is that same thing, not leaning in so much, standing up, taking a breath, not doing the Capricorn react. Oh, I've got to solve this. I've got to fix this. Maybe I don't. Maybe I can take a breath, you know, and realizing that you still have value, even if you don't like come to the rescue all the time. So I'm looking forward to the fruits of all of that. That's I envision Capricorn, you know, like I'm learning to be different. I'm learning to respond different. You know, maybe I'm still a first responder. I'm on the scene, but I don't have to do everything. And I could learn a thing or two if I don't do everything. But I'm definitely, my vision of it is enjoying more. And I like that whole thing of doing less and accomplishing more. You know, like for me, that doing less is doing less stress. It's, you know, I still like to do things, but doing less stress and accomplishing more that's meaningful, enjoying the moment, being really present. And I think that is, that's probably a good grandmother wisdom as well. Just really being present. Life is so short. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
In the big picture, I was watching the thing on glaciers and mountains being formed, and they're talking like, you know, 70 million years and all of this stuff. And I'm like, wow. And then we have the beauty that we see today, you know, the mountains and the lowlands and everything, but it's like the beauty of nature. But it took 70 million years, you know, to come out of a glacier into this beautiful place that we see now. So we're just a little blip. But I want to enjoy. I want to get on that side of it. So I think that's the reward of Capricorn.
Yeah. I just want to add one more thing, Kaylin, if you don't mind. The talking about your job and how rewarding that is. I'm really enjoying my job. It's only 20 hours a week. We're doing systems work that is hard and messy and gratifying all at the same time. And I have peers, you know, we're of course nonprofit, so it's grants and all of that, but I have peers who are really passionate about what they're working on. And since it's a grant, I have a scope that's well defined, which is really nourishing for me. And I was just thinking about leadership, because Capricorn's born leaders. I mean, you know, whether we realize that or not, I think, you know, anyone can lead. In Capricorns, I shared earlier that anytime someone doesn't step up, I'm always the one, you know, and I've learned to take that pause and think about whether I want to take on the commitment and all that that comes with it. And thinking of leadership, I thought, you know, sometimes the best leadership move they can make is stepping away or standing on the sidelines. And I've experienced that a few times, and there's something about, taking that pause and watching others move forward that's very gratifying as well. And I think that's also where the wisdom piece comes in,
Mhm.
where, the Capricorn underlying mantra is, taking the experience of the past, distilling it for the future for the next 7 generations. I think that that's where I feel like those types of leadership, that leadership capacity, that wisdom, is what will make things funner. That and hanging out with Caitlin more.
It really is. You know, keep our vision on track.
I love all that's been shared, and so personal and so insightful, and I'm sure helpful to people that are watching this. And just to kind of sum it back up and bring it back around, because it's like the wisdom piece, the elder wisdom piece that Capricorn is all about. And that's, so if you're younger, you're and even myself, who's in my late 60s, I'm still learning. I'm still gathering. I'm still learning. So it's not like you just get to a point and you just think you're a wise one. I mean, I don't know that happens, but there is a wisdom, and you can start to see it and experience it and live it. And it's about it's the wisdom to have fun, as well as to do things in a responsible way, the most effective way, the most efficient way, to get the best results for the least amount of effort, do less, accomplish more, all of that. That's the essence of Capricorn that has been lost. And so our opportunity is to get back that pure essence of this archetypal energy. And so I'm really thrilled to be able to have done this with all of you today, with both of you. It's been just so fun. We'll do more.
Yes.
So, bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.